Well, our filming is different from surveillance.
Yeah.
Right? It has a different agenda.
Right.
Depends on the agenda. Okay, so maybe you're going to show us.
Yeah, so I'm downloading Natalia's photos now, and everything is going into a main directory, which is all part of the, the workshop directory. So I have a workshop directory, so we have Natalia Match and
Kristen? Oh no.
Kristen?
Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah. Okay.
Did
I
anyone
did an
else?
audio and a
Oh, so they must, the other ones must be in your inbox.
So let's have a quick listen to one of the audio files.
See if we can guess who.
Oh, I need. Reach. I've got to move it. Sorry. Good sound. Just trigger options.
As I stand next to the light emitting screen of Pro Arts, I'm under a light receiving camera, receiving our movements, our faces, receiving light waves, signals, surveillance, every day, every minute. Light emitting screens, light emitting cameras.
All right, that's great. And here's another one. Alejandro.
Seems as if with wealth, or with the protection of wealth, comes a lot of vigilance and scrutiny. There's an interesting duality to be explored between the protection of wealth, the holding on to it, and the hiding of how one actually accumulates it. I think this is an interesting antithesis that just kind of comes to mind, and looking at the surveillance state, especially in context of the camera over the Frank Ogawa Plaza, specifically the bank. That's really
Great.
It's the
that's a word I couldn't think of.
So we have images, we have sound, and these are Christian sounds, images that went with the quite nice poetic phrase there.
Who's that?
No, that's
Sorry.
Kristen, that's good.
I'm sorry, I've mislabeled the folder. I'll fix that. How do you spell?
T-I-A-R-E.
Yeah.
I was co-opting your word.
Okay. Great. So it's important to name things for obvious reasons. So I'm going to name the correct files with the correct author.
I wanted to, Jen, can you tell your point again, what you said to me when we were just sitting here? Because I thought that was a great point.
Oh,
Do
just
you
that,
remember?
like, when I was going around Revolution, and, I'm sorry, what
Same.
Sam. Like, we noticed one of the fishbowl cameras, like, on the side of City Hall, and I just noticed, like, it's such an eyesore, like, it doesn't, I almost feel like the design was very lazy. It stands out so much from, like, on this building, because, like, I don't know, the style of the building is very old, and I don't know, if I, personally, like, if I were designing a surveillance camera, I would try to make it more subtle. I would want it to blend in with the the surroundings a little bit more so that people wouldn't notice it.
If they want us to know that we're being surveilled?
I mean, yes and no, but like,
I think it's like an extension of power, like, like we who kind of maybe own this block or this, I mean, it's unclear who owns it, but it's also this kind of like making sure that no one acts up under this kind of like, forceful, like non-consensual, surveillance platform. So if you were to maybe, do graffiti or like get into a fight, there's also this camera that's kind of telling you that you shouldn't, in this way.
Yeah.
Unspoken way.
I mean, as Steve,
But also your point, I think, too, is that if the cameras were super obvious, people would be super uncomfortable with the degree that they're surveilled. So they're sort of designed to be kind of blend in, but then they also have to be noticeable because people have to be aware that they're also under surveillance for the reasons you're stating, like so that they don't act badly or create whatever. It's just like this fine line between.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's like the fact that we know that there are a lot of surveillance cameras out there that don't actually work. But they're there
Yeah, probably
to
they're left
say
over.
you don't know whether this works or not, but we may be watching you, so think about what you're doing.
Right.
And that's another kind of.
I mean,
on the side of the road. The equivalent of having like a cop car with a cop in it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
as Steve Mann points out in his paper on sousveillance, one of the reasons the proximity of the surveillance camera to its subject has to do with its elevation, right? It's usually higher up, and it has to do with its range and distance in relation to its elevation.
Yeah, that's part of the intimidating factor of it, as well as that it's above you. Or it belongs to a certain realm of filming or control because it's above, rather if it was at your same height, obviously. Although, I'm sorry, this fellow here pointed out that the ATM machine itself has a camera built into it. So you actually found one, I didn't find it, right in the window that's looking right at you.
Also, the fact that a surveillance camera to work properly has to be far away from the person doing the recording from the camera. And that's a huge faux pas that Google made with Google Glass, because it's socially unacceptable for a person doing surveillance for their camera to be physically close to the source of the recording. And Google Glass builds a camera, a 720p camera, right next to the display device that is used to see the results of the camera. The camera's on the same platform as the playback thing, as it is on a phone.
And when they were beta testing Google Glass, one of the objections people had was that they didn't get a little red light when they were being recorded. They didn't know when they were being recorded. So as much as they tried to get it all to blend into the frame of the eyeglass to look natural, so to speak, it had to betray itself. Otherwise, people in the same room got upset that they were being recorded, which is very.
So surveillance is not necessarily to do with the camera; it's to do with the social relations between the way that the footage is obtained in relation to the proximity of the lens and its sensors in relation to its subject. The power relation is crucial, and that is expressed through the elevation and the range and the traversal between the subject and the lens and its position. So it's similar to in a military situation of having mastery of the battlefield by being elevated. So if you're high up, you always have a much better vantage point than you do if you're low down, which is why you always want to have the high up point of view if you're looking to dominate the battlefield. For the same reasons why forts are high up and turrets are high up. If you have that overview, you're mastering the space. But it also makes you vulnerable, because if you're up there, you can be knocked down. So there's a double-edged sword to having a fort. A fort protects you, but it also is, sticks out like dog's balls.
But also when you do filming, there's usually in professional filming, whatever, there's some sort of contractual arrangement or agreement of what you're going to be filmed doing. Whereas with surveillance, the idea is that you're going to be caught doing something that you didn't know you were being watched doing. There's part of that's part of the implication, or that we're safer because we could be caught, or someone could be caught. I don't know, the whole safety issue really interests me because I've had this conversation with Steve Mann too, who's really doing this work where like goes into bathrooms, and that whole thing about the bathroom and those tiny cameras. I mean, this is not to freak anyone out, but I mean, just I guess as a woman, you feel a lot more. I feel quite vulnerable. You know, your sense of my sense of privacy, I think, is different from that. I would argue it's gendered, and I think with the I mean, there's been so much around us, like cell phones and locker rooms and who gets to watch who and who, like, the whole watching thing, but just the notion that, I don't know what I'm saying exactly, except it's just of being what's caught or being caught, but at the same time feeling that there is an element of being safer. Yeah, at first that argument held, when they're putting video cameras on buses, but sometimes you're on the bus and you realize, God, everyone on this bus is on the camera. I mean, where does it begin and end? And are we actually safe? Are we just producing a society that's more sneaky or more, terrified of our own social ability to act in public space? I guess is the question.
Can I, before you go on, just because you're prompting me to think about this might be off topic a little bit, but I'm just wondering generationally how that different people respond to that, because I hear what you're saying, but I also think that, our digital natives are more comfortable with the whole concept of, selfies and Skype. I mean, you're looking at yourself
You're
being
comfortable
recorded.
until you find someone did it without your knowledge.
Right. Well, but I still think there's like a much greater comfort with there being observed by others as part of like your daily experience for young people. And I don't know like what point, like what triggers. I mean, here we've got some in the room. Like when you start being like, wait a second, is that okay or not okay? Because I think it's different.
No, that's a really great point. I think your parameters definitely shift and have shifted over the last 30 years.
Yeah, that's relative to what we might think was.
Right, and I think if you talk to older people, I work a lot in the senior community actually, they're much more reluctant to have their pictures taken, I think. They just don't, they feel like it's a kind of invasion of privacy, they're not comfortable with that. And then until, teenagers, notorious for the selfie thing, and everyone's on selfies, and they've been on it since they were little, making pictures of each other, but then as soon as that goes without their knowing, someone puts a picture, then it gets into a really different space for them. It's one thing to feel in control of that, and it's another thing to lose it. So it brings up some really interesting points. And then there's us that are like in between, and I know that I've had in my lifetime had to change my relationship to cameras, spanning in my lifetime.
And how far does it go?
It also depends on how you're raised. Like I was raised in a house with lots of cameras, whereas David was raised by a photographer. So actually knowing David photographed everything, and just being with him, I had to get used to being photographed, which was strange for me because I wasn't brought up in a house with a lot of cameras. I don't know how other people feel about this. Any comment about that? Like, some people like to be on camera and other people don't. I don't.
I hate it.
I think
you hate it.
Suffice it to say that expectations of privacy are culturally determined and are generationally determined to some extent within the US Western culture, but they vary wildly.
Yeah, culture to culture.
The French care a great deal about being photographed. The British are ambivalent for the most part, or indifferent.
And the Aborigines in Australia, they don't ever allow any pictures of anyone dead to be shown in public. That's a big thing about movies that were made of Aborigines throughout their history. They're now sort of cloistered and can only be seen privately by researchers. They can't be shown publicly because the Aborigines don't want their dead to be shown again. It's a really deep cultural.
Some tribes think it steals their soul, or used to.
I think republics, it's innocent having grown up in Commonwealth countries, to live in a republic like this. France is a republic and the US is a republic. Countries that have come out of revolutionary republic tend to value individual privacy more on the basis of, look, I'm just trying to get along and build my private economic sovereignty here. Can you just let me get on with my, let me get on with my endeavor and my enterprise as an individual if it looks like friction and feels like friction, you know, for the average American, they don't want it in their way. So if it helps them lubricate the path to the pursuit of happiness, they're all for it. But if it doesn't, they're all against it. So the proximity is thus in relation to the perceived role of the camera in relation to the bigger concept of the republic, which is to say the people, the population. If the camera is emblematic of the population, fine. But if it's somehow at odds with the population, not fine.
Or commercial
Yeah.
appeal too. I mean,
Yeah.
people can be products or made into products from the image. I worked in an office down here who decoyed. They were having graffiti problems, so they just put a big sign in the window saying, "Smile, you're on candid camera."
Right,
Even
no
the
camera, right.
So playing on the
Right.
Without, I
Yes,
think
so
we should
where are we
proceed.
at? Yeah.
Okay, so now, having downloaded the files, I have them in a directory, in directories on my computer. And what I'd like to do now is prepare them on the internet so that they're available to the world, basically. So with your permission, I'll do that. This is latest drift activity. There's a subfolders for each of the participants. 2 of the 3 participants have supplied both sound and visual information, 2 pictures and a file as instructed. Now I'm going to put them up on the internet. But one thing I recommend here is not Google, but archive.org. So,
Which is,
You
yeah,
send it to
Internet
them?
Archive.
Internet
So I
archive.
sent them.
It's a public commons and
It's a
everything on it is
public
public
commons.
domain.
It assumes everything that goes up is Creative Commons. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and upload. Brewster Carl is a wealthy dude who cares
It's
about.
terabytes of memory.
Did you guys do it? And you-
Did everyone else
Yeah.
say
It's
this?
an internet archive.
This is the Internet Archive.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So but everyone should sign up with the Internet Archive because I think it's a great thing and I recommend it.
So we're putting our project on the space on Internet Archive.
Yeah.
We'll give you the URL eventually.
It's not the only thing you can use. Another good thing to use is SoundCloud.
Or other.
For audio.
Yeah. SoundCloud's good too. I'll use that for my music.
Do it again. David, you
Yeah,
maybe
so a couple
missed
of
a
us
couple
sent
of
something,
files.
if
Yeah.
you want more, or forge on and know that you could go collect more later.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you can make your own maps too, which are really fun.
I'm actually putting all of Alejandro's stuff up here in one fell swoop, so this is all going in one place. So up I go. I've got to complete this description. Part of lens drift activity. So this is metadata which will be embedded into, you know, whenever somebody goes, you know.
To the link, to the QR code, they'll read this.
Yeah, I mean, I can flesh this out later, but. This is how it can be found. What's your last name, Alejandro?
Kerrigan, Kerrigan.
Kerrigan?
Yes.
G,
Yes.
Like that?
It's a Kerrigan.
yeah. K-E-R-R-I-G-A-N.
K-E-R-R-I-E-J.
K-E-R-R-I-G-A-N.
Okay.
He said like,
Oh, I
like to
did.
carry it.
They sent it, you sent it, so the small files, the small files.
Yeah.
And we'll give it a Creative Commons, shall we? Yeah. I'm just going to take that off. Okay, so once it's gone up and we have a URL for the sound, we can make a QR code out of it. Because it's gone online, it's up there, it's live, it can be listened to. Anyone with a phone can go straight to that web URL and hear it. But it's not easy to type in a funky little URL. It's easier just to scan a code. So that's what we'll do. We'll turn the lengthy, obscure URL into a code, a scannable code. So let's go to the page and look at the files. Okay, well, the visuals.
Oops, very control.
No, it's a slideshow. It's
Oh.
a slideshow. So, I guess I need to find the exact lossless audio. There, that's the audio there. Okay, so that's our audio. Here. That's got to be it. Okay.
That's about as long as the recording workflow is.
I'm sorry?
I said that's about as long as the recording workflow.
Right. So I can do this. I can go. I can go to this and go share this item, and I can then choose. I can use the share code there, but that's kind of lengthy. That's like an embed code. That's kind of overkill. It's much better just to get the straight URL that just plays the sound.
Is that the end of the top one?
Yeah, that's going to be it there.
That's it.
There it is there. So using this URL, I'll now use a QR code maker. And I've made, on this handout, there's a QR code generator link there. So I'll open that separate.
So, and we're also going to put this, the PDF, I think Natalia's going to put it on her site somewhere, so
Yeah.
those links will be live, but they're on the back page.
Right. So this is one of many QR code generators that are on the web. But if I type in Alejandro's MP4 link from archive, and then say make QR code, it'll make a QR code. So now I can download that into the same folder that his other stuff is in. Yeah, I know myself. Okay, there it is.
Sign up for free. There you go. Alejandro.
Okay, so now we can print that. We should print that. Or I can email it to Natalia.
Do you want to print it? You're hooked up still to the...
Do you want to put them on the flash drive?
Sure.
What would be the easiest way
We
to
can
print
probably
them?
print it with, without...
David, you're hooked up to the Konica, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Why don't you just press print and I'll go in the back.
So that's one QR code linked to that sound. Now, if we got really ambitious, we could make it not a link to a sound, but a link to a sound plus other things. Maybe like a website that auto-triggers a sound and has some other things on it. We could get very ambitious, but, linking a sound is pretty good. Okay, so next I'd have you go out into the plaza and put the sticker in place then. Maybe laminate it because it's raining, but put it up there in the plaza. You're from the city council?
City Hall.
City Hall?
I'm not on the council.
Okay.
You work at City Hall?
I get to
And
vote
you
on
all work
things.
from City Hall. The plan is to put these in the plaza
Yeah.
and to enable the general public to scan them, to listen to the anecdotes, and then to have a...
So we print it.
All right.
So is that right on the corner here?
Yeah,
You
so
laminate
Just gotta
it,
get
tape,
tensor on
you
it.
can laminate, like, for the rain, over it, and then you can put it up.
and then when you come back, you and I can figure out where on the plaza.
Doing this right now.
Yeah, when you come back, you and I together will sit here with this open map, and we'll plot on the map where it should go, and we can augment this map so that it's got a place on the map. We can edit the open
You
map.
don't have a laminated.
And
You
the
laminate tape.
And the URL for this map is here. Anyone can augment this map with this URL. So this is a special map that has the ability to be augmented by anyone, and you simply take a place mark like this, and you put a spot, and then you can put in the description, you put the URL for the code that we made before for the sound, and the URL for anything else we want. Because we haven't uploaded, well, we have uploaded the pictures, we could put that too.
So you can continue the annotation, write another story about it or whatever. If anyone's made this on Google Maps, all that we're using is a different, we're using archive.org, but we're using also Open Maps to do it.
So here's the URL for this picture here.
Mm-hmm.
That could go on the map as well.
Yeah, just maybe let's put it up a little bit.
So,
You're doing a great job, Nancy.
yeah, so here's the map. On this annotation, you can put that. That's the JPEG.
Yes, I like the JPEG.
And we can go back and put the other JPEG.
Yeah, that's great, that's great. You did a
Cool.
great job.
Did you manipulate this photograph or is that just with your phone tech? It looked pretty
I
interesting.
think it's just, the new,
Lighting and it's
Yeah.
nice.
But you can, so.
No, the phones are so good these days
Should I go
If
back?
if the weather were nicer, I think people might be a bit more playful. Also, these are fantastic. Just you can see the idea of also being more playful. And I think with the surveillance camera players, they really thought they were talking with somebody on the other side, that their images were playing to an audience they couldn't see, and that's like kind of really interesting take on the whole, issue of the camera itself, right?
So I'll save this